One of the things that I suggest for a couple is to really spend a day and sit down and just brainstorm. It doesn't hurt to reach out to a planner to start. That's like the biggest difference. So if you hear people say planner and or coordinator, there really is a difference. They aren't the same thing.
Hi, and welcome to the Hawaii Wedding Podcast by HNL Studios. My name is Keshia, and this is Charles, and we're your hosts for today. In today's video, we had Tiffany from Tiffany K Events joining us to share some of her insights into destination wedding planning. What did you think of today's episode, Charles?
I thought it was really good. She shared a lot of great points about just how to make communication with your guest easier. She also shared some really interesting things on how to find the best the best venues and vendors to work with. Actually, it was quite interesting what she came up with, and when you really think about it, it makes complete sense why that works. And so it's definitely a great resource for couples that are watching this podcast today.
Definitely, I agree. And I think this is something that's really going to help a lot of couples who are even in whatever stage, even if they're just starting out or in the midway stage of planning their wedding. We don't want to keep you waiting any longer, so let's get started. Hi, Tiffany. Welcome to the podcast today. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you guys doing?
We're doing great. We really appreciate you joining us today, and we really appreciate that you've made the time to actually just even share your insight and share your knowledge with us. And we believe that a lot of the couples who will be listening to this will be able to just learn a lot as they go through the journey of planning. A lot of them are in the beginning stages, and a lot of them are in the midway. So I believe there's still just this wealth of information that we are able to share with them.
Oh, I was just going to say thank you guys for, even asking me to be on this. Super excited to talk with you again and just kind of share a little bit of insight from my perspective on planning.
Definitely. We're definitely excited to hear more. Before we get to the nitty gritty, can you tell us just a little about yourself and how you started off with planning weddings?
Sure. So basically, I actually started on the venue side. So I used to work in hotels almost 2 decades ago. I started, at the front desk, and then I was working in sales and catering, working with all kinds of events. I actually didn't even.
Picking up from that, I believe you mentioned that you worked with hotels. I'm just curious, how long was that? How many years was that?
I would say probably 15 years about. So yeah, like I had mentioned, I started working front desk, and then I worked my way up into a senior event person, a senior event management role, actually. And so I was working with all types of events, even up to large conferences of thousands of attendees. So I've pretty much done a whole scope of events.
Wow, that's amazing. And how did you get started? I mean, you mentioned that it was 15 years in the hotel and you weren't that much into weddings. And then how was that transition from hotels to actually being a wedding planner? How did that happen?
So I will say, I prefer much more to be on this side, one, I will say. But I think what happened was I was working in hotels for so long. And, I've worked a lot of nights and weekends, but not really on my own accord. It's really because of the need, right, of the business. And I didn't really have a choice at that point. And then I was just working in the corporate world. So when I stopped working in hotels, I actually moved into third-party corporate planning. So again, more corporate. I was traveling to different places for events. And then I kind of transitioned into marketing. So something a little bit different, but my most recent corporate background is in marketing, in promotional marketing. And I got laid off from one of my corporate jobs. And everyone used to always tell me, Tiffany, you're a planner, you're naturally a planner. You help us plan this, you help us plan that. Why don't you just do it on your own? And I was always scared. I was always no, there's no way I could do that. I don't even know where to start with that. And I think when I got laid off, I was sitting there and I was like, okay, what am I going to do with myself at this point? And one day I just said, you know what? I think I'm just going to do it. And I had talked to my cousin, and he has his own business as well. And he basically just said, look, this is exactly what you need to do. Come up with your name, go register your name, basically go and, basically set up your whole business, do a website, all of that. And he was like, let me know when you're done. And then I said, okay. So one day I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm just going to do this. Right. It's like, all right. So I go to like the city of Oakland over here, and I go and register. I get my business license. I call him and I said, hey, cousin, I'm done. And he's like, what do I do now? He goes, okay, now it's time to just market the crap out of yourself. And sorry for excuse me, but yeah, I was like, okay. So, I mean, from that point on, it was just like, there was really no turning back at that point. It was more like, okay, I really did this. Like, I'm legit out there. I got to put myself out there, and let's just see what happens. So my original goal was, I just want to book 3 weddings just for that year. Like, my goal was, okay. So I launched in March of 2018. And I said, okay, I really just want to do 3 weddings. That's it, just to put my name out there. Even if I'm not getting paid that much, let's just see what happens. So I ended up booking 5 for my first year, which was awesome. And I was still, so actually, to backtrack, I ended up finding a full-time job in the process. It was not really, it was not really planned. I was kind of looking for something part-time just to kind of help me as I was trying to build my business. But my friend was a recruiter, and she's like, oh, there's this position at a printing company. It might be good for you, but it's full-time. It's not part-time. I was like, oh, I don't know, but sure, why not? Like, let's just submit my resume. And the next thing you know, I got the job, and I'm like, oh no, what am I going to do? Now I'm trying to build this business, but now I have a full-time job. So it was kind of a challenging transition to have to balance both. So, I kind of just I just went with it. I just rolled with it. And my end goal really was to eventually be a full-time planner. So I mean, let's see, like that full-time job, actually, I have had since last year. And then it transitioned to part-time. And actually, I'm just going to share this with you guys now, but today was my last day as a part-timer with them, and I'm now full-time wedding planning.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm super excited.
That's awesome.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. That's a big step. That's
huge,
a big
huge.
step.
So after 4.5 years,
definitely,
finally, I made it here. So we'll see.
yeah. Exciting times ahead.
Yeah, hopefully, I hope so.
Yeah, and I mean, 4 years of wedding planning under your belt, you've seen a lot of things, you've experienced a lot of things, you've met a lot of couples, and I'm sure you've encountered a lot of challenges as well. So coming from that, what advice do you have for couples who are just getting started on their wedding planning process as a seasoned planner?
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the biggest things, because when you get engaged, it's all very overwhelming, and you really just don't know where to start. And I think one of the things that I would suggest for a couple is to really spend a day and sit down and just brainstorm, like pen to paper, write down the things that you want, the things that are most important to you. Even if it's, even if you think, oh gosh, I don't even know if I can afford that. For me, it's beneficial, I think, for them to be able to see the things that they really want. And then as you're going through the process, and, then you can start to eliminate the things that maybe aren't as important, but at least you have it all down on paper, and you can see them together, and you can talk about them together, and really say, okay, where do we really want to focus on, or what's most important to us in the wedding? Like, do we want to have, is the venue important? Is the location? Do we want it to be a destination? Because I think that's the thing, is like, they don't really know where to start at all, right? Like, do I want a destination wedding? is it going to be a big wedding? Do we want to elope? Like, is it going to be intimate? Do we want to do it? So I think that's like the biggest thing, is just finding some way of making it a little bit more concrete and putting it on paper. I actually just told one of my couples this recently because they booked me for 2 years out for a particular reason, but they're so far out that I said, right now it's so early, but the best thing that you can do, because we can't really finalize a lot of things so far out, is to brainstorm, write everything down, take a look at everything, make a list, see what you guys really want, see make that vision, start drawing that vision out. And then from there, it'll start to all come together.
Wow. That's amazing. And probably just, you know, like coming from the idea that a lot of couples have no idea what to do when they start, and even they have no idea what they need before they get a planner. So what do you feel is something that couples need to have ready before, for example, they call you? Do they need a date? Do they need their venue ready? Or is it something like you can help them with that as well?
So I think I guess it doesn't hurt to reach out to a planner to start, right? Because actually it might be more beneficial, because once you start interviewing different planners and talking to different planners or coordinators, then you start to realize like, oh, maybe I need more help sooner than I thought, right? Because there are some couples, or that are like, oh well, we're very organized, we're planners ourselves, like I think we can do it. But until you actually start to talk to a professional and kind of pick their brain, then they realize, because I do see it when I talk to them and we have consultations, like light bulbs start to go off and they're like, oh, I didn't think about that, or maybe we should definitely have a full-time planner, or no, I think we got it. So I think it's very beneficial to, outside of like looking for a venue and a date, because full-time, if you hire for a full-time planner, they can help you with all of that, right? So they can help, like I can help source all that information for them. I can help them schedule those site tours. And so you don't necessarily have to have like a concrete date. But I think like that, yeah, exactly. Just maybe reaching out. So maybe reaching out and just saying, okay, let's talk to the planners and see what they have to say. Don't necessarily have to commit to a planner, but just see what they have to say, right? I think that will help guide them through the whole process to begin with.
That's amazing. That sounds good. And yeah, I do agree with that. There are some people because some people can be really organized, but the thing with wedding planning is that if you don't have that experience, there are things that you can miss out because you just don't know that they're needed. And yeah, I was just also curious, like, can you explain the difference between like those three kinds? Because usually I see like there are three different types of planners. Like there's the full, and then the partial, and then the month of. Can you explain kind of the difference and what they mean?
Yeah, definitely. So for full-time planning, and that kind of goes into like planner coordinator, which I can talk about afterwards as well. But so for full-time planning, it's basically you need somebody to help you the whole way through, right? So that's like, oh my gosh, I have no idea where to start. I need help. Like, I don't even know what venues to look at. I don't know how to set a budget. I have no idea. I just need somebody to come in and just like guide me through the whole process, right? So that's basically full planning. Is I will be there to help you. I have resources. I can connect you with vendors. I can give you ideas. I can help you kind of shape your vision board into the way that maybe you see it in your head, but don't really know how to put it down on paper or on like a Pinterest board or things like that. So that's, full-time is basically doing all of that with them, attending meetings with them, attending vendor meetings, helping them design concepts. And then of course that includes just like execution of their wedding day. So partial planning, and that's usually about like 12 to 18 months out, I'd say. Partial planning, that's about halfway through. So some couples are like, Oh, I think, we're okay with sourcing our venue. I think we know kind of exactly what DJ we want, what photographer we want. So they don't really want the help up front. But after all the big ticket items are secured, they're like, okay, now what, right? So now it's all like maybe the smaller details. Where should I get favors? Do you know a certain musician? Things like that, where they need a little bit more help in staying organized and maybe having a checklist to keep them on track. And when do I order invitations? When do I send them out? Do I send save the dates? Like, stuff like that. So that's like partial planning. It's being that consultant for them through kind of the rest of their planning process. And then again, going into the execution of the day. And then like month of, or I mean, which people used to call day of coordination, which isn't really like a thing, right? Because we can't come in the day and be like, all right, hand it over, like, let me run the day for you. You know what I mean? It's kind of like not really a thing anymore. So it's now turned into like month of coordination, or we like to call it wedding management, because really we're managing that day for you. So about a month before, some planners even do 2 months before, we connect with, all of like vendors like you guys, we connect and just making sure that everything's in line based on all the planning that they have already done. So our job is really just to make sure that their day goes smoothly, and that they don't stress out on the day of, right? So they have a lead person that will work with all of the vendors. Yeah, so that's basically like the 3 different tiers, I guess you can call it, for wedding planning packages that most planners offer.
That sounds. And then I guess the difference between the wedding planner and the coordinator is like what you mentioned. Like the coordinator is more like of the month of, or the
Yeah.
2 months of.
Yeah, I guess so planner is like you're fully invested in the whole planning process, right? So you're in it with them from the get-go. You're basically, I like to always tell them like I'm going to be your best friend, because we're going to spend so much time together that we're going to be planning all these things. Whereas like a coordinator, it's really getting together all the logistics that have already been solidified. So just making sure they're organized and the logistics are there, and just what it sounds like, right? As just coordinating their day and coordinating with all of the key players that are involved for the wedding day. So I think that's like the biggest difference. So if you hear people say planner and or coordinator, there really is a difference. They aren't the same thing.
Okay, that sounds good. And out of curiosity, because the timeline tends to be kind of a very crucial part of the wedding planning process. Is that something that's included in like the coordinating part, like the month of, and because I can assume that it's part of the partial and the full wedding planning scheme, but is it part of like the month of,
Yeah,
or is it something that couples do on their own and
actually,
just consult?
it's I would say it's more a part of the coordination process than the actual planning process in general, because you can't really put your timeline together until a lot of the details are already confirmed with each vendor. Knowing their setup time, what time they're arriving, what they need on the venue site, things like that. And sometimes the couples will have like their own general timeline, and then they realize, like, as I start to tell them, I start to look at it and tweak it, they realize like, oh, I didn't know we had to have time, to do those things, like to put my dress on, and or put my jacket on, or there's little things that they don't see. And our timelines, as you guys know, our timelines are like 5 minutes, they're minute by minute, not necessarily meaning that it's going to stay that way, but it's really to kind of show the couple that there are so many details that are involved. And sometimes they want like all these things packed into their wedding day, right? Like they want the performance, and then they have bouquet toss and cake cutting, all these things, and then you realize, okay, now we only have 30 minutes for dancing. So it's like they don't realize that there's a lot that really goes into a whole day. It's not just, okay, we're going to say our vows, and then we're going to have a party, and everyone's going to party. It is like that, but there are some formalities as well. But that kind of, it's funny because kind of talking about that, like with formalities, I notice a lot more couples, especially like this year, are not doing a lot of those traditional things. Like they're cutting them out. And I don't know if it's because of COVID, and maybe a lot of them are married already and this is like their second wedding. So they're like, oh, we don't need to do that. Like, it's fine. We just want to party and celebrate with everybody.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I think, yeah, that's actually a pretty interesting take. We have seen a lot of couples who have had like more unconventional celebrations, and I think that's kind of really creative and fun to see.
Yeah, definitely. I agree.
Yeah, I
I think
agree. I
those will
do kind of
actually want to
notice it
make
as well.
clear.
There's definitely a lot less. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I guess thinking of like working with couples, do you feel like there are any challenges that a lot of couples encounter that could be prevented? And what do you feel are like some tips that you have to help prevent those challenges that they seem to encounter a lot?
So I think one of the biggest things that I'll say, and if there's any takeaway, honestly, from this whole podcast that we're doing today, is to trust your vendors. Yeah, is definitely to trust your vendors, because as many weddings as we've done, and like especially as a planner, you know, they interview us in the beginning, they hire us for a reason. So it's like you're hiring me to be able to run this special day for you. You have to be able to trust me. And I think like if there is no trust with the couple and any of the vendors, then it definitely becomes a challenge. The communication will not be there. You know, you just have to mesh. You just have to really mesh well. And like when I do consultations with my couples, I always tell them it is okay to talk to other coordinators or planners before you decide on who you're going to work with, because you're going to be working with them for so long that you have to be able to have that connection, that vibe, you know. And so and you know, that's where the trust comes in. It's like if I don't trust you, then we're not going to vibe well, and the whole process is just not, it's not going to be fun. And we just want it to be fun. Like I want my couples to have fun when they're working with me. I want them to be able to look back and remember the planning process as like, oh my gosh, like I remember when we did this. And or at the end of the day tell me, I'm going to miss planning with you. And I get that a lot, and I want to keep that going. You know, you don't want your couples to come back and then say, oh my god, that was like the worst experience of my life. Like, no, that's not what we're here for. So yeah, if there's anything I can recommend is 100% trust your vendors and make sure you do your research, and you know, you talk to them, you ask the questions, and have good conversation. And you know, from the get-go, like for me, I can definitely tell when I'm doing a consultation if we vibe well. Like, oh, I definitely could say I could definitely work with this couple. Or you know, I could see myself being friends with them afterwards, and a lot of the couples I work with do end up becoming friends with me. So that's just like icing on the cake, really.
That's awesome. Um, and this is more of like veering into destination wedding territory. I know it feels overwhelming to plan a wedding like in the same location, but I can imagine it's harder when you're like an ocean away or so. And I feel like that requires a lot more intentional and careful planning. And but what do you think couples should prioritize, or how does like the order of priorities go when you plan a destination wedding?
Yeah, so I would say for destination, like really think about, this is where checklist comes in, right? So this is where you really should have a checklist of what are the things. So I would say the biggest thing is think about your guests, one, you know, obviously number of people that are coming, but think about the guests and what's going to be convenient for them as well, because you're asking them to kind of fly to or drive wherever, travel to a destination to celebrate with you. So in that sense, we also have to be mindful of like, okay, how can I make this an easy process for them, an enjoyable process for them, a non-stressful, like when they get there, they should know, they should have all the details of where's the wedding, you know, what transportation is available, where can they stay, what are things to do around there, because sometimes most destination weddings, your guests make it a vacation. So you need to have like, you know, just like some things for them to do, right? So I definitely think that being able to think about your guest number one, and then I'd say the next thing is think about what are some of the items for your wedding that you are able to have provided at the destination location, because you don't want to have to think about shipping all these items there and then back, right? Because that can be a huge hassle. And again, so that's part of checklist. But I think the more resources that you can utilize at wherever destination you are going to be at, the better. It just makes life easier for the bride and groom. It makes it easier for the planner, for the venue. It just makes it easier for everyone all around. So yeah, I mean, just and another thing I would say encourage is maybe not like encourage monetary gifts, but encourage, if there are gifts, to be shipped to their house either prior to the wedding, or just say like there's a card box only, because again, you don't want to have to like worry about having to ship things back after the wedding, right? Especially like if they're going to be on a honeymoon after that, then who's going to have to worry about that? Mom, dad, aunt, uncle, cousin, so it just becomes a little bit more. I think that's the thing, is like people don't think about the after part of the wedding. They think, oh, all these things, but then the end of the night, it's like, oh, wait, we have all these boxes and all these gifts. Like, what do we do with them now? So for destination, that's even more of an afterthought, So I think that's definitely key when planning.
Wow.
At what point do you start to at what point do you share with your guests like that, if you're gonna have a box, like send it to my house or something like that? Like, how does that interaction happen, or that communication?
So I would say that is something that can be put on your wedding website, because nowadays everyone has a wedding website, or for most couples have a wedding website. So when you send your invitation, or your not even invitation, but when you send your save the dates out, whether it's virtual or in the mail, there can be something on there that will say, like, and I've seen it done before, where it says like, please have wedding presents shipped to so and so. I mean, and I think with destination, it's understandable. So I think that if there's like a little blurb on your save the date, or and then reiterate it again on your website, I think people understand that, and they're like, okay, obviously, like we'll just send that, prior to the wedding. And it can be, I think, like, yeah, it can be done at any time, really, and just like reiterate it again, like on the invitation.
Hmm. How many of your couples are actually using websites, in your opinion? Like 8 out of 10, and like where are they hosting their sites at? Or because I would think a lot of them don't know how to build a site.
Yeah,
So I guess,
I
yeah,
would
could you kind of just
say
talk a little
like,
bit about that?
yeah, I would say, I mean, probably 90% of the couples that I work with have a wedding website. If not already before I talk to them, or they're in the process of having a site like as we're planning. And a lot of them do it. I've seen them through the knot.com, through zola.com, Wedding Wire. But Zola seems to be pretty popular, and the knot seems to be pretty popular. So, and I think it's a good way for a lot of people are straying away from the snail mail and things like that. It's just easier to have everything in one spot online. Like technology now, everyone's online, so all information is in one hub. And you could even put like the wedding websites, you can even put like photos of like your bridal party on there, which is actually beneficial to me as a planner, because it gets me familiar with, okay, this is the maid of honor. This is the best man. These are the people that I need to be looking for on the day of the wedding. This is the mother of the bride, mother of the groom, father, stuff like that. So I think wedding websites are very beneficial, and I highly encourage couples to do that. It's a central hub for all the information, and you're not like, people get mail all the time, right? And a lot of the time, it might get missed, or they just toss it, or they misplace it. Whereas if you have a website, you have always somewhere to refer back to, than having to like sift through paper and trying to find, oh my God, what happened to so and so's invite? You know what I mean? So I think that's just like the best way to communicate nowadays.
Right. Yeah, completely agree for sure. I know I went to a destination wedding in like Chicago area about like a year and a half ago, and Same here. Like we were on the way there, and we were like, okay, where is this place at again? And we didn't have the invitations with us, but we knew we had the link on our phone, where we could see exactly like the map where to go. And so yeah, definitely a lot more handy being on a digital website for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It'll
I do
probably
agree.
save them. Like, even the bridal party sometimes doesn't know all the information. And so it's like, oh, just look at the website. It's right here. So it's just a good resource.
Oh, wow. I feel it would be useful for us as well. I mean, for us to be able to like identify who is who on the day of.
Yeah, whenever you work with couples and they got a website like that, definitely hook us up.
You know
Because
what?
for
That's
us, we're
actually,
like
I'm going to put
guessing,
that on my
right?
list now.
Yeah, because what I tell our photographers is like, okay, who's in the front row? Like, we definitely need to like pay attention to them, and then probably the second row. Those are probably like the
Yeah.
Oh
cousins
my
or like
God.
brothers and things like that. And then we might not know, so definitely yeah, that helps
I think, see, now that
for
you
sure.
say that, I think I'm going to start including. Yeah, I think I'm going to start including the wedding websites on my timelines now that you say that, because it seems like that would be very
Yeah.
beneficial for vendors to be able to have access to that. So I'm just going to add that to my list.
Awesome.
Yeah, awesome. That sounds great. And then I know we talked about a lot of tips here. You shared a lot of advice, but if there's just one go-to tip that you think couples should have in mind or should put into practice, aside from like the pen to paper, but if there's other than that, just one last important tip that you feel couples should practice when planning their wedding, what do you think should it be?
If I would say, start a wedding file or folder, whether that's a physical one or one that's like online, because that, like, I do that in general, like just when I'm planning with couples, but I'm actually finding that some of my couples already start one of their own. And I just think that like that's really a good way to keep them organized, right? Where whenever they start their process, they can just store whatever they have in there. Like the old school way when they used to clip things from magazines and stuff like that. But this way it's more organized, right? Like you can do, I mean, I don't know, some people might still do that, but but just like, or digitally, like have a folder where you just put everything that you get, all the proposals that you get, all of the ideas that you see online, just like cut and paste it, snip it, and just put it in there. And I tell couples to do that, but I think that's really important because that becomes like your central resource of just your wedding. And honestly, like it could be a way to look back too, like a memory, right? So it could be like, oh, remember, like, hey, we have this, like, remember when we were planning our wedding? And then also it could be helpful for maybe other couples that get married that are in their family or friends, and they can share that information with them too. Because like there could be spreadsheets of stuff in there that they create, or even like they even have like ceremony scripts in there, because they're printing it out for their officiant or something like that. So they're very because I've gotten asked several times, like, do you have a copy of just a general ceremony script? And I'm like, oh, actually I do, from a past wedding that I can share with you. So it's beneficial all around, right? But I think like that would probably be a number one thing for couples to keep in, is just to start like a general folder or file, and maybe name it something fun too. Like maybe, I don't know, whatever their hashtag is for their wedding nowadays.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. I actually have mine still from
See?
my weddings with everything, even the receipts.
Yes. Oh, wow. You have the receipts too.
Yeah. Because I was like, when I was planning my wedding, I just put everything here. So if I think of something that I need from the wedding, I know where it's at. And so it has like, I don't know where it is. It's somewhere here, but I know it has everything from our wedding.
And I mean, you could even use it. I mean, I don't know if you'd like want to do that, but like scrapbook of just memories. Like down the line, maybe put your wedding photo in there, like after you guys get married. I don't know, something fun, something fun to share with your kids, maybe down the line.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting. And then I guess if there's like, do you have like any tools or methods that you highly recommend for couples who are planning, like any methods that you feel are beneficial, especially for couples who kind of want to do it on their own?
Yeah. I would say, I don't know if it's really so much a method, but I think like they really just need to set aside a day or like a weekend, and maybe just, I guess here, now that I'm talking about it, maybe set aside some wedding planning time, if that makes sense, right? Like whatever that means, whether that's like a day or a weekend, because I know a lot of couples too are busy, they work, they don't have time, or like maybe one of them is only doing the planning, but it could be beneficial to have the couple together, maybe talking about things, and then maybe it won't seem as overwhelming if you have just like a certain, okay, so on Friday, at whatever 7 p.m., like this is our, like, let's talk about some wedding stuff, so that it's not so much like stressful, right? Like it's kind of like we can do it day by day, bit by bit, like take it one thing at a time, because it is so overwhelming. So I think, I don't know, I don't know, I guess that's a method, right? That's a method of how to approach planning it or starting to plan it. Yeah. That way it can be a little bit more fun, and then you also spend some time together from your busy schedule, so and maybe not make it as stressful, so it's like, okay, well, let's have a glass of wine and like let's talk about this tonight, like, okay, did we, like, what day are we going to go look at venues, or what, whatever. And sometimes the grooms aren't as involved anyways, so they might, but might be a good way to get a little bit of quality time together.
Yeah, that's amazing. I remember when we were planning our wedding, we had like designated like wedding planning days and then no wedding talk days. Like, okay, on this day we don't do anything. We don't talk about anything wedding planning. We don't talk about anything about this, but we just have fun. And then on this day we focus on actually getting things done for the wedding.
Actually, that kind of, it's like, I guess it could go both ways, right? It's like, instead of having a wedding planning day, maybe like a non-wedding planning day to balance it out so that it doesn't become as
Yeah.
stressful. What I will say though is
I
utilize,
think it
if you do,
depends on the couple.
yeah, yeah. I think I would say though, if you do hire a planner or a coordinator, utilize them. Like, utilize them. There are some times where I have brides
Yeah.
who tend to, like, they're organized and they want to do a lot of things on their own, but and I always try to reach out, like, let me know what you need, and then like the next time we meet, they're like, oh, I forgot, I have to call the caterer to tell them about the special meals, or I'm like, I can do that for you. So I think it's educating them, and like, educating them and making them feel comfortable to know, like, that's why you hired me. You hired me so that I can take that stress off of you. So I have struggled with that with a couple of brides, but it might just be the nature of just how they are. A lot of them like to just have that planning control, and they feel better if they're the ones doing it. So I think definitely, if we can make them feel more comfortable and understand, like, hey, I'm here to help you, like I'm here to be your resource and your guide, like as a planner. So yeah, I think they just need to utilize the people that they are entrusting with for their day.
It's amazing. Charles, do you have any questions that
I do
you
have a
think
quick
you want to?
question. In regards to like that situation where she wanted to, let the caterer know about the special meals, like how would, like, let's say she would rewind it back, and like she said, she knows, she thinks about it in her mind, oh, we need special meals for these people. Like, how would she communicate that to you, to like have you kind of take part of that? Like, well, what is your process like for them to communicate their needs, like when they're
Yeah.
randomly, like, doing wedding
So
planning, or like,
I think
yeah, how does that work?
every planner is different. The way I work, like for me, more communication is better. So I tell them, like I have a very busy schedule just in general, with weddings, with kids, with life, whatever. But this is my job. And for me, I make it a point to be accessible to them. And whether that's just, I tell them, if you're thinking of something and you think you're going to forget, send me a text. Just send me a text or send me an email. And just, it can even just, it doesn't have to be like a formal, hi, Tiffany, this is so-and-so. Like, it can literally just be reminder, call caterer about special meals, right? And then like, because then it alerts me, and like, I tell them, great. And I'll tell them the same thing. Like, if I'm busy, I will at least reply and say, I saw your text. I will get back to you in an hour or something like that. But to me, like, communication, the lines of communication with my couples is always open. And, you know, as throughout the whole planning process, once we're in that process, I'm basically accessible to them if they need me. So I tell them, if you're thinking of something randomly, just send me a quick message, because I don't want you to forget about it, or you know, enter it in our, because I work off of Google Docs and share file. So we have, you know, like, we'll have notes or something in there, or the timeline. I tell them, or enter a comment in there and just like address it to me, so that the next time, or like, I'll get an alert and it'll tell me, oh, you know, Sally put a note for the caterer. So then I'll see it, and then I can always follow up with there later if I have a question. But it's best for me to know those things than to not, because I've had it too, where there's times where the brides have stuff sitting in their head, and then come wedding day, it's like, oh, I didn't know that. So I would rather them randomly text me sometimes. You know, I'm probably going to kick myself for saying
Right.
that, but no, I mean, like, honestly, I would rather them send me like a quick blurb or a quick text just to inform me of something or keep me in the loop than to not. Because the more communication I have about anything that's wedding related, the better it's going to be for me to be able to make their day run as smoothly as possible. Then there won't be as many surprises, and we're just on the same page. So I encourage my couples to do that. Now they understand, like, obviously I'm not available 24/7, right? But as long as there's some sort of note somewhere, then I'm okay with that. That's a good question, by the way.
Right. No, that's definitely insightful, and it's good for you know, just for couples to really know, like, okay, what is this actually like, you know, am I able to call her like my friend, and or like text her like my friend? And some planners and coordinators are different, like they have different communication processes, like that you know, you will schedule a call or something and we can do it in like 3 days or something like that. But then there are those things that do come up, and then if there's nobody to kind of handle it, or like for me, for a place to put this, like they'll kind of try to handle it themselves. And so it's great for me, in my opinion, that you do have that option available. And of course, if you feel like, you know, the way you work changes, and then you can kind of just coach your couples on what that process is like. But yeah, that's really insightful to me.
Yeah, I mean, like,
Appreciate for sharing
fortunately,
that.
I feel like the relationships that I build with my couples are really great, and I feel like we do kind of form that friendship, right? So I actually want them to talk to me like they're kind of talking to a friend, because I want them to feel comfortable, and that's just my own style. Like, that's my own planning and communication style. That's just how I am as a person. Like, I'm a people person. I just like to talk. I like to, you know, and that's a lot of the reason why I do this, is because I have conversations like that, and I want them to feel comfortable. Because if I put myself in that position and I'm planning my wedding, like, I want to be able to say, like, you know, hey, like, I just want to be able to just talk to them like a normal friend sometimes about certain things. That's not to say, though, that like I wouldn't tell them, you know, oh, I'm not available, or like there's certain hours I will not be available. Like, you know, I'm very transparent with my schedule. Like, I tell the couples I have 2 kids, I have a side job, or I had a side job. So sometimes, like, after a certain hour, I'm not as available, but that doesn't mean that you can't send me a message. You know, like, I might not be able to talk to you at that time, but I will at least acknowledge that I got your message. And usually I follow up. If not that night, I will follow up the next day, and they're copied on everything. So I'm a big, like, advocate for communication.
And sometimes what puts couples especially at ease is just knowing that you aren't ignoring them, you know, even if you don't get in action immediately, just let them know that, okay, I read this and I will work on it.
Yeah.
And I'll help you with it.
Exactly, because if I'm like on anything. If I'm reaching out to somebody, and
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Charles, do you think you have anything else?
No, no, not nothing on that. Definitely agree with you because we do communicate with the couples as well, and we notice that a lot of things can be avoided, like as far as problems, by just making sure that they're okay, reassuring them, and just communicating quickly, before things kind of get out of hand. Um, yeah, I definitely understand where you're at with that.
And then, yeah, we do have like 4 more questions that we have for you that we ask all of our guests, and we call them the HNL 4. Can you share what hobbies and other do you have, like these hobbies or things that you like to do for fun when you're not planning weddings? Wow,
but yeah,
CrossFit.
so CrossFit I do a lot. It's my like stress reliever. It's fun. I know you would never think, but
Oh, I
that's
used to
one
do it
thing.
actually, and yeah.
Oh, see,
I used to do it because it feels like amazing when you finally get to deadlift like a huge,
yes.
like 100, 200.
Oh yeah. It's like you're competing with yourself, so you're always wanting to like up your
Yeah.
number. And like the community is just really fun. Like I love the people I work out with.
Yes.
It's just
Yeah.
like another family. So yeah, so that's one thing. And I actually sing also. Super random.
Wow, that is awesome.
Yeah.
Oh.
We gotta hear
Like,
you sing on Instagram one day.
yeah, I think we need to hear it on your. You should post a reel or
Actually,
something.
I actually have posted before on one of my stories, but maybe I'm due for a new one. But yeah, I posted a while back.
Yes,
It'll be some random time when
that
I'm
is
just like
Oh
in the
amazing.
wow.
mood.
Oh wow. That's very interesting. That's something like we're learning new things today.
Yeah.
Oh wow. And then yeah, so I guess you're the one to watch out for during karaoke night.
Yeah, I keep it low key. I don't like advertise that I sing, but it's fun. I used to perform when I was younger. Um, but yeah, I've done it. I actually tried out for American Idol and The Voice a long time ago.
What? That's crazy.
Yeah.
Really? Like really? Oh, oh
So be
my
on the
gosh,
lookout
this is so
for a new
interesting.
video.
Yeah. Oh no.
If we can
We look
find
forward to
B
that. And
roll in
maybe
here, we'll slip it in.
There you go.
that's so fun. Oh wow. And then what do you believe is the reason that you do what you do? That you help couples plan their weddings?
I think honestly, it's I think I do what I do because it's just super rewarding. Um, People always ask me, or they always tell me like, I don't know how you can do your job. Like it seems fun, but it seems very, very stressful. I go, it's a lot of work and it can be stressful at times, but when you see a couple at the end of the day, especially if you've been working with them for a long time and you see like how happy they are or that things just like came out to be the way they envisioned it, like that for me is the reason. And it can be like a super long and stressful day. Actually, a recent wedding I did, gosh, it gave me chills just right now. But the bride, we did a room reveal and she walked into the room and she literally was like crying happy, like crying in tears. And like she gave me a hug and like it made me all teary eyed. And she was saying, like, she was telling me that, it's been so hard and thank you for everything. And it made my heart smile. Like that's why I do what I do. And to meet people and just like be able to meet different people, not just brides and grooms, but like vendors, I mean, like I've become friends with a lot of vendors and you just meet so many amazing people. You get to see so many like beautiful places. It's like the best industry, honestly, to be in.
Wow. Yeah, I completely agree. Um, And for couples who are planning their wedding, couples who may want to get in touch with you, how can they find you and how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so I am on Instagram. It's Tiffany K _ events. I'm also on Facebook. It's just with my Tiffany K Events by Design. And then my website, which is www.tiffanyKevents.com. So I'm all over the web.
All over the web. Oh yeah, and we're looking forward really to seeing that singing reel and that CrossFit
Coming
reel.
soon. Coming soon. Oh, if you follow my personal page, that's where all the CrossFit is.
Oh wow. Thank you so much, Tiffany. It was such an honor to have you here. We learned so much from you and we learned so much about you. And it was so much fun to just see things from your perspective and even get to know you a little bit more in the process.
Yeah, no, thank you guys so much. I appreciate you, even inviting me on this. It's been fun. It was great getting kind of, just talking and not really and talking about a timeline in particular. But yeah, I'm happy to be able to share some insight with everyone, and hopefully it helps couples that are going to be planning their wedding with some tips on how to get started.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tiffany.
Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in with us and watching. And if you're looking for wedding photography, videography, and photo booth, or if you're looking for wedding resources, you can visit us at www.hnlstudios.com. And we do invite you to like, subscribe, and leave a comment just to make sure that you don't miss any future episodes. And we'll see you guys next time. Thank you, guys. Bye.